today's presentation is going to be on ThinManager MultiMonitor and making the most of your displays. We are making an assumption here that you're coming to this today that you already have a decent amount of knowledge about ThinManager, and you're just trying to understand a little bit more about what goes on with multi-monitor aspects and features inside of ThinManager. So go ahead and get started. We'll kind of move this thing along a little bit. First thing we need to talk about is display servers. Inside of ThinManager, we refer to display servers as anything that might be coming from remote desktop services, or you may know them as terminal services. They're one and the same thing. Microsoft decided to change the name with Windows 2008 R2 to remote desktop services, but it's basically terminal services. You can also use a display server that's a shadowed thin client that you have in another environment. That's another display. IP cameras are another source. The other thing for display servers are anything coming from a virtualized environment, such as like from your VMware servers or anything like that, be it a workstation, your OS itself, like a Windows XP or Windows 7 actual operating system that you need to deploy to a thin client, we can do that. Or if you want to actually just use a virtualized servers out there to deploy the applications that you have, you can do that as well. So that's what we refer to when we talk about display servers. Okay, now the next thing we have is what we call display servers and display clients. And to just explain this a little bit more, we'll have a little graphical representation of it. Display servers basically are going to give you your terminal server sessions, okay, or your remote desktop sessions. And then you're going to have your shadow display server. Well, those are really coming from your ThinManager ready terminals that are already out there. We're going to make shadowed sessions from them. You can do the same thing from multiple threads from your IP cameras or different virtual machines. Those are all going to generate what we call displays. Okay, and those displays are then what we're going to generate out to the actual thin client itself. Now those can be either linked to a specific terminal or to an end user, one or the other. And the way we do it with the end users, we use a feature inside of ThinManager called Term Secure. And we have some other webinars based on that as well, so if you want to find out more detail on that, feel free to join in on those and look at our website on the events for that. Regarding the display layout, we have a number of different ways you can do layouts. We've got just, we can have multiple sessions running simultaneously from one thin client, and it can be based off of the user or it can be based off of the thin client itself, and they can be in with the multi-session, we can do things that are tiled, or we can do them where they're cascaded one on top of the other. There's a number of different ways that we can actually display those, regardless of whether it's coming from the terminal itself, meaning the one that's being the owner of it, or from the specific user when they log in and they get their specific displays that are required for what they need to do in work-wise. So just to review, we have our terminal server sessions or remote desktop services. We've got our terminal shadows server threads. We've got our IP camera threads, and anything coming from a virtualized environment, those can be used as well as display clients. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a single client, single monitor with multi-station. Okay, this little graph right here depicts what that kind of looks like. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over here in just 1 second and kind of show you what that looks like. I'm going to actually get over here and see what actually happens here. So let me get in my environment. Okay, so this is my environment. I've got a couple different terminals here in my environment. I've got one called operator, another one called supervisor. And then for my display servers, I've got a couple different ones, my primary and my secondary. You see I've got some cameras in my environment. I'm actually going to show you what my room looks like here in just a second so you can have a better idea of what actually is going on. I have a couple of ESXi servers that I've got at my disposal if I wanted to use them, and a number of different display clients that I already have configured and set up. Alright, so just so you can kind of get an idea of what's happening in this environment, what this room kind of looks like, so it's just not some hidden voodoo kind of scenario. I'm going to actually connect to my multi-monitor camera and kind of give you an overhead view of what this actually kind of looks like. Let me pop that real quick down here. And so you can kind of get an idea. I've got right here in front of me, I've got a quad display. This is my multi-monitor display that we're going to be working with. And then I've got another terminal over here. This is my little single monitor setup that I've got right here. This is a Contec unit I've got right here. And then right in front of me, this is an Arista Box PC 240 that I'm running these 4 monitors right here in a quad. Okay, so I just want to give you guys an idea of kind of what the environment looks like a little bit before we get through things. So first thing I want to talk about is a single monitor with multiple sessions running. And so what I've got right now is I've got this desktop supervisor that you saw off to my left-hand side a second ago that we're shadowing. Right now it's just running a desktop session on there. Okay, nothing really special, just a desktop. You can see that it actually shows you it's coming desktop on my secondary from the my secondary server. I'm going to actually add a couple of different displays to it so you can kind of see what this looks like. I'm going to add, let's see here, I'm going to add an HMI tank oven. I'm going to add this user dock, and we'll do that for now. We'll do that. And then actually make sure a couple of different settings. I want to make sure I'm going to show you how that kind of looks. Yep, okay, finish this real quick. Right click and restart. Now once I do this, I'm going to apply these different display clients that we have here. I've got the desktop on my secondary, HMI oven, and this user guide dock. Now once it comes back up from restarting, we'll see it shadowing still here in my environment. And then once I do that, I can just simply do a control page up and control page down, and you'll notice that the green lightning bolt is going to switch from each one of these as I basically switch between them. So now I've got the oven here that I'm looking at right now, and then I've also got this user guide dock. Now this is a single thin client running multiple sessions, and really simple, straightforward. One other thing I can do that kind of gives you a multi-monitor-ish kind of a feel if you don't have multiple monitors, but you can still do something with it. I'm going to come over here, I'm going to modify this real quick one more time, go to my terminal here, and I'm going to actually make one change right here called enable tiling. And I've got a couple different tiling options. I can actually show a grid, I can tile the displays on startup, which I'm going to do, and then I can actually do a tile on right click. I can even make the tiling interactive, but I'm not going to do that for right now. So I'm going to click on finish, and I'm going to right click and restart. Now I've got 3 sessions that are running here, so it's going to be in a 2x2 grid. Okay, so when it pops back up and we shadow it, you're going to see 2 actual sessions running at the top and then 1 at the bottom. All right, so we've got all 3 of them right here. Now if I need to get into any one of these at any point in time, I can simply right click and bring it to the foreground, and then I can do what I need to. I can open up another application if I will. So let's say I was in this right here, I can open up Notepad, I can type in here if I wanted to. I can right click to take myself back out of the tile mode or put it in the tile mode so we can see everything that's going on. It's just a simple, easy way of having a visualization of everything that's going on in the environment. So this is what we call tiling with a single monitor running multiple sessions. And I could continue to add multiple sessions if I wanted to. With tiling, you'll see here I can do as little as 2 or as many as 25. So let's show what that looks like real quick. I'll add a few more just so you guys can kind of get an idea of how this kind of spreads out. I'll add the HMI tanks. We'll add work order application. I'll add calculator. I'll add a bunch of them. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Well, I'll add one more. What the heck? So hit finish. We're going to do right click, restart, hit yes. So it's going to take it a second. It's going to come back up and it's going to draw, and it's going to actually tile all these out. So once again, you're going to see that the tiling mode is actually going to shrink each one of these images down so to actually get the grid all the way it needs to for the setup that's going on. Now, because I don't have an even 9, this is going to be a 3x3 kind of setup. So I've got 2 blanks down here, and I have no way of controlling that. There's no way if you want to know, well, can I move this one over here to this space and whatnot? Tiling doesn't work that way. It's just based off of the order that you have over here on the left-hand side. So desktop on my secondary starts out in the first area, HMI oven starts over in this middle one, and so forth, and it just keeps running from left to right, top to bottom. So when you look at that in a tile mode, there's no way of actually saying, okay, well, I want to move this one over, move that one over. You can do more of moving when it gets into multi-monitor, but you can still see a number of different displays running in your environment simply by doing tiling. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to change this one more time. I'm going to actually take it back down. We're going to have all these on here. I'm going to bring this back down. There we go. Let's leave it to desktop on secondary. Right click, restart. We're back where we were a minute ago. Okay, so let's go back over here to our PowerPoint real quick and kind of step through this a little bit more. We already showed the multi-session. Now let's talk about multi-monitor, and that's what a lot of you guys are wanting to know a little bit more about is multi-monitor, and we've got what's called spanning and screening. Okay, now spanning is when we take one display client and we're going to span it across multiple monitors. Now that could be 2 monitors, it could be 4 monitors, it could be 5 monitors, whatever you want it to be in that respect, whatever your application is and how you want to use it. A number of different ways to make this happen. Or the other what we have is called screening, and that's where we take each monitor has its own specific display client that it's actually using. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to go back over here and I'm going to actually demonstrate what that looks like. So let me get back out of this environment real quick and I'll come back over here to my workstation. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to go back up here to this operator terminal. Now this is my Box PC 240 one. This is what I was talking about a minute ago. It's an Arista Box PC 240. And if you'll notice right now, it's running in single user mode. Okay, if I were to shadow this right now, we're just going to see one client, and there's only one client running on it, one display client that's there. It's just in single user mode. Now, the easiest way to actually manipulate this is to come back over here in our terminal mode selection, and we're going to enable multi-monitor. Now, by enabling multi-monitor, it's going to give me a lot of other features that I didn't have available to me before hitting that button. So the next thing we come to is the number of monitors. Well, we have 4 monitors. I showed you guys that a minute ago. I have 4 monitors in a quad, so I'm going to select 4. I'm going to leave them all the same resolution, but they could be independent in different resolutions. If you're wanting to run different screens at different sizes, you can easily do that. We also have a video port little tool right here in case by chance you plug the VGA port into the wrong one and you thought it was supposed to be in 3 or 4 for that second monitor that you wanted to have, and it wasn't supposed to be there. It's supposed to be in 1 or 2, and you need to move around. You can easily manipulate that. So what I've got right now in my environment is I've got it in a quad environment. I've got a quad display. Now, what I could do in the layout is I could have it where it's all horizontal, so you'd have 4 in a row, or 4 vertically, or like I have it here, quad. Or we could have 3 on top and 1 on bottom, or 1 on top and 3 on bottom if I have 4 monitors. So there's a lot of different ways of doing it, but what we got today is a quad setup. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show a spanned environment. Now, how do I do that? I go to here to the screen layout, and you'll notice that A goes to 1, B goes to 2, C goes to 3, and D goes to 4 currently. Well, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to change this where I've got A going to all 4 monitors. Okay, so now I'm going to click on Next, and A is desktop on my primary. Okay, no big deal. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on Next, get it Finish, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to right click and restart. Now, once I do this, I'm going to let you guys see this because I'm going to go back to this multi-monitor camera so you can kind of see what's going on. This takes a little bit longer to actually happen because of the fact that it's actually got to reboot the actual Thin client itself and change the hardware configuration. It's not just simply changing the actual session itself, so it's going to change the hardware configuration specifically inside the Thin client. So it takes it just a second, and it'll reboot here in just a second. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others. There it goes, starting to restart. So after it restarts and it starts bringing up, it's going to go through the normal standard config that you would see a Thin client do. It's going to actually, pop up with the loading ThinManager and everything else, and does all that kind of stuff, and it would get the grid across. But now what we've got is we've got a display client that's spanning across all 4 monitors. Now, if you notice here, you can see that the icons are up here in the top left of the quad monitor setup. You can see this logo is down here in the bottom right. When I come over here to my operator terminal inside of ThinManager and shadow it, all we see is just kind of a larger cell screen, if you will, but I have no grid. There's no grid showing me that I'm actually spanning or anything, or spanning across the multiple monitors. I just see my icons have gotten much smaller than what they were before. If I were to open up something like Notepad, if I do right here, and then type in hello, and then I'm going to come over here. I'm actually going to drag it over here to the middle, kind of. So now when I go back to this multi-monitor camera feed, so you can kind of see what it looks like, you'll notice that now that Notepad image is actually split in between the two. So it's just a cool feature. If I wanted to, that maximize that Notepad, it would maximize across all of the monitors there instead of just the one monitor that it's in. It would actually do across both. But that's what we call spanning. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is what's called screening, and I'm going to click on no. I don't want to save that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on make some changes to my terminal, and what I'm going to do is we're going to come over here to our layout, and I'm going to do what's called screening. Okay, so now what we're going to have is individual sessions running in all of these different ones. So what we're going to do is I'm going to actually make one of them a shadowed session from my supervisor terminal that's right here. I'm going to apply that to screen B. I'm going to put this H2O plant in that one. I'll put the tank down here, and we're going to go ahead and click Finish right now. And then I'm going to show you what this looks like. So we're going to right click and restart. This won't take quite as long because now we're not actually making a hardware change. We're actually just making a change to the actual display clients. So it won't take quite as long as it did the first time to actually draw this out and get the configuration back over to the Thin client. Like I said, the only time it actually has to do more of that is when it's actually getting the full config and making changes to the actual hardware itself. So you can see this happened a lot faster this time. It's already green. It's to start shadowing here in just a second. There it goes. So now you'll notice that in my shadowed session, I've got my desktop primary over here in the top left. We've got the shadowed session from our supervisor terminal over here in the top right. And then I've got the H2O plant, and then I've got our little tank farm over here down on the bottom right. So this is what we call just it's a basic setup where we've got multiple sessions running on multiple monitors in the environment. Now the great thing is just because I've got multiple screens, I've got 4 screens, does not mean I'm limited to only 4 sessions that are running. That's all I put in here right now, but I could actually add more. If I wanted to, I could come over here to my H2O plant and I could add the oven into it if I wanted to. I could actually put Notepad down here on the tank farm one as well. I could come over here to my work order application and add it to that one. So we can have multiple sessions running in multiple monitors. So I'm going to click on Finish, right click and restart. Once again, it'll take it just a second to bring these configurations back into play. Doesn't take that long. It's going to take longer on certain devices versus others. Certain thin clients have a little more processing power than others, but it's a relatively short window of time. You'll notice everything's back green. It'll take it just a second, and then it'll pop back over here in my environment so I can see it's shadowing. Now, if you'll notice that I've got this environment right now, I've got multiple sessions running and multiple monitors. Well, what I can simply do is I can come over here to this particular monitor and I can do a control page up or control page down. If I do the control page down, it takes me to the session that was behind it. That's that work order application that I had in there. Now that shadowed supervisor shows that it's actually in yellow. If I come down here to my bottom monitor and I do a control page up or control page down, it's going to take me to Notepad. All right, I can take it back to where it was, back over to that tank farm. Once again, I can do the same thing with that top monitor, take it back over to that shadowed session that we had running before. And then over here in the bottom left, if I do a control page up or control page down, once again, it's going to take me to that other HMI that I had running, which is the oven I have running here. Okay, so I can have multiple sessions running on multiple monitors, and that's not a problem at all. So the great thing about multi-monitor is it gives you a lot of flexibility for your environment of what you're doing, and you don't have to be, I guess, say pigeonholed into just looking at a certain few things. You can have multiple things running around. So a couple of things I want to talk to you as well about is just some specs that we need to kind of go over. You can have up to 5 monitors in a multi-monitor environment. The resolution basically being 1600 by 1200, so that gives you a spanning limitation of 4096 by 2048 is what is limited there. However, the resolution on that 1600 by 1200 each is actually it's not completely right. It's actually more than that. So, typically your typical HD resolutions can do. Now the spanning, however, we still hold that as 4096 by 2048 because that is an actual Microsoft limitation that they have not changed just yet. Touchscreens are supported in this environment. Shadowing works as well. Windows Maximize function applies across the entire spanned area, like I talked about a minute ago. The display selector drop-down position is completely configurable for your span monitors, and as well as your display selector and informational messages can appear on all of the screens. Other thing we want to talk about is display mobility. Display mobility gives you the ability to actually move screens between different monitors with the drop-down selector, and I'll show you how that looks here in just a second. The mobility is completely configurable. It's basically only available between screens with the equivalent resolution. So if you had 4 different screens and 3 of them were 1024 by 768 and the other one was 1280 by 1024, that one oddball screen size, you wouldn't be able to move anything to or from it because it's not the same resolution. So that's just something to bear in mind. Anchoring locks a display to a particular screen if you want to, and then you can also protect or keep another display from moving on top of the other screen. So you can have like no way something can move to that other screen and everything else. And I want to show you how that looks real quick. So once again, I'm going to get to my other environment real quick. And what that looks like is if I come over here to my operator terminal and we kind of step through our screens here and we get to this next screen, this right here is what allows me to be able to move from screen to screen. If I check this box right here, allow screen to move. All right, and then for this, what I've got set as my main monitor is 1. I've got a number of different selection options. I could say if I wanted to be able to enable tiling in that particular one, if I wanted to, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. Actually, I'll go ahead and set it up for you. I'll enable tiling right now, telling startup, right click, cool. So we're going to do that on that one, which is this bottom one right here. And I'm going to actually add another display client to it here in just 1 second. And then I'm going to come over here and click Finish. I'm going to show you what this kind of looks like. But before we get further, actually I want to add one more display client to that bottom left hand one, so you can see what tiling looks like still even in multi-monitor. So I'm going to add this user guide doc over here to my screen C. So we've got 3 displays in there. So I'm going to click on finish, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to restart. Now this time what's going to actually happen is we're going to actually have all of these different screens running, and then in the bottom left hand corner I've got tiling turned on, so when it comes up and starts up it's actually going to be in a tiled mode. So give it just a second for actually to show up here on the screen. It takes it just a second for it to draw on my end on the admin console. It's actually already up and displayed on the other, so give it just 1 second. So you'll notice now on this bottom left hand side I've actually got it in a tiled mode. So not only do I still have multi-monitor, but I can still do tiling as well. There's a lot of functionality, and I'm just barely scratching the surface of a lot of things that we can do here. I can still once again click inside this tiled area and bring one of those forward. I can right click, take it back to the tiled mode like it was a minute ago, and then once it goes back in, if I wanted to bring this H2O plant look, I can do that. I can bring that forward, or if I want to take it back to the way it was, I can. So a lot of feature and functionality in the way we can do with monitors and multi-monitors, and setting things up and giving you a lot of display mobility. But speaking of display mobility, what happens if I want to actually say I want to take let's say come down here to this bottom monitor, and I want to actually move one of my monitors here. Let's say I'll come up here to my top monitor here, and let's say I want to take it to I'll say I want to bring the HMI tanks up here to the top one. And once I do that, you're going to notice that Notepad is what comes to the forefront, because that was what was down there before. I can come back up here and I can say, well, now I want it to be Notepad instead. Well, then that bottom area is actually going to go blank. It's not going to have anything there. So I'd have to come back over here. I can actually select something here. I can say, well, I want to bring the HMI tanks back down here again, and it'll bring it back down here. Or over, let's say I wanted to bring something over here to the top side over here for where I've got desktop on primary. I could say I want a shadow supervisor over here. And once I click on that, it's shadow supervisor, then it's going to take it over there. You're seeing a little bit of delay on the screen there for you, simply just because there's a lag in the internet and the way it kind of runs. But just to give you an idea, once again, I'm going to pop back over here to the cameras and show you what that looks like in the environment. Okay, so in the environment, you'll see that I've got all those different sessions that are running in this environment. I'll bring it back this way. So we've got that shadowed session that was running up here. We've got the tank farms and all that kind of stuff over here, all in this environment running from one thin client down here, this box BC240. Let me show you one other camera image. It's over here to my left, and I can kind of manipulate a little bit and let you see it. Give it just 1 second. This is an Axis camera. You can see it over here from this angle, maybe show a little bit better detail and definition as to how that kind of looks. Okay, so this up here, if you look here, and this monitor right here, this is my supervisor terminal that I'm actually shadowing up here inside of a multi-monitor aspect on a different thin client. So a lot of functionality in what we have inside of ThinManager and what it can do. Alright, so let's get back to where we were. I think there's just a couple more things to talk about. Some new features I want to make sure that you guys know about before we run out of time here. USB to VGA or DVI integration. We do support DisplayLink's the DL195 chipset, which allows USB to DVI or VGA adapter. Basically, it comes out as a DVI, and you can put the DVI to VGA adapter on there. You can add up to 4 monitors to an existing piece of hardware. Now, if you have, let's say, like a box PC240 or box PC140, this may by Arista, that may be a 3-monitor or 5-monitor box already. Adding this card in there, or this USB chipset device to your actual thin client, does not give you 6 and then 7 monitors and all that kind of stuff. You're still limited to 5. What it does is it basically just takes place of the second monitor and the third monitor and fourth monitor and so forth. You have your primary monitor, which is going to be the VGA or DVI card that's already on board, but anything that you add to that, it's going to become your second monitor, your third monitor, fourth monitor. It automatically takes over that because it can only have up to 5 on there. Alright, so that's just something to bear in mind. But you can take something that may be a single monitor terminal right now, and you can turn it into a multi-monitor terminal by adding this unit on there. You just want to make sure that the thin client that you're actually using has enough processing power to be able to do that. You wouldn't want to really use an old brick that may be 5 or 10 years old that doesn't have enough processing power, because it'll actually slow it down, because it does use part of the actual CPU and everything else on the thin client to actually make that draw, because it's doing it via the USB link. Okay. Another feature to talk about that's going to be in Service Pack 3 that's getting ready to be released is multi-station. It's basically where you can take one thin client, have independent mice, keyboards, and monitors, and run them all from one thin client. So you're going to be able to, what's what we call multi-station. You'll be able to take that from one thin client, be it a Box PC 140 or a Box PC 240 or whatever multi-monitor environment you might have, and be able to take and have multiple sessions running all independently of each other. So you'll have 3 independent keyboards, mice, and everything else running 3 independent sessions, and that's what we call multi-station. New feature coming out in Service Pack 3.